Why do people like Hannah? I used to enjoy her, especially her podcast with Paige, but watching her in season 5 is tough. It feels like she's spiraling every episode. Does she ever redeem herself? I'm curious how she turns things around after this season. In her first season, she was okay. The Luke drama in the second season got tiresome. But in her third season, season 5, she's just not likable to me. Also, I recently found out she's apparently a comedian. I actually like Hannah now. Sure, her behavior on Summer House was cringy in season 5, but what fascinates me is how people often only remember her from that season. It's interesting how others like Carl and Lindsay get acknowledged for their growth, but Hannah's transformation seems overlooked. I think the backlash against her is exaggerated. Overall, she hasn't been worse than 95% of the men on Bravo, including those on Summer House. I'm a fan of Hannah, but not because of her season 5 antics. I enjoy her humor, especially from listening to her podcast. It's clear she's embarrassed about her behavior in season 5. I loved her in seasons 3 and 4. Say what you will about the drama with Luke, that was the standout storyline of its season. Through their podcast, I feel like I get to see more sides of Hannah and Paige. She was cringeworthy in season 5, but considering it was during COVID and she was isolated with a group of not-so-close friends, I can empathize. I wouldn't want my messiest moments during COVID broadcasted to everyone. I prefer not to judge her too harshly for her cringy moments, especially when other cast members have been downright toxic. I think people like her because she comes across as cool and real. Reality TV during a pandemic, if I recall correctly, makes it easy to forgive unraveling moments. It's sad she gets so little sympathy here. It seems like she lost herself a bit, which could happen to anyone, especially when alcohol is involved and you're filming for Bravo. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Spill Chronicles. It's me, Ramona, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. On the other hand, what's Kyle's biggest issue so far? Am I the only one who's turned off by Kyle's new DJ career? After Amanda expressed wanting a hobby outside of their relationship, his reaction and subsequent cheating really bother me. It feels like he's trying to control her every move. This DJ thing reveals his true colors. Not the fun party guy, but a 40-plus Peter Pan craving total control, especially over Amanda. Remember when he proudly claimed he hadn't spoken to any girls in months, despite being with Amanda for 3 years? There's so much we don't know about what happened before they got married. He dumped her before season 1 to be single, then used Amanda as a fallback when no one else was interested. It's clear he doesn't respect her much, if at all. He steamrolls over her feelings, calls her lazy, yet insists Loverboy can't survive without her full attention. He leaves her in his shadow to play DJ, which seems more like an excuse to stay out drinking and socializing until 4 a.m. When will she realize she supports him, but he doesn't support her or care about her growth? They clearly want different lifestyles, but cling to this relationship, refusing to see the inevitable. Despite fitting the preppy, entitled, overgrown frat boy stereotype with a company named Loverboy, he's surprisingly charming, charismatic, and fun. But yeah, Amanda once revealed in an early season, maybe 4 or 5, that he called her a disheveled piece of shit, and that always sticks with me when I watch. Seeing Amanda stand by him while he DJs makes me equally dislike them both. I could be wrong, but it feels like Amanda has regressed in maturity over the seasons, possibly influenced by fame from the show and her long-term relationship with Kyle. However, the misogyny on Bravo shows is just unbelievable. After rewatching the entire series, it's glaring how the editing cherry-picks clips to paint Lindsay as a harsh, controlling figure while portraying Carl as a victim. This bias runs through multiple seasons, often targeting Lindsay. It seems they can't handle a flawed but strong woman who confronts her issues openly. Instead, They favor women like Amanda, who feels obligated to fix her man, or Paige, who engages in slut-shaming. It's shocking how the editors push these outdated female stereotypes, and even more disheartening how many viewers buy into it. It's frustrating. The latest season really highlighted this for me. At the reunion, all the guys, plus Paige and Amanda, were awful. The only ones I came to respect were Ciara, Gabby, and Lindsay. This bias is evident across all non-housewives shows, especially those with both male and female stars like Summer House, Winter House, VBR, and Southern Charm, which might be the worst offender. Ciara's confessional this season, where she talks about people still bothering her about Austin, was heartbreaking. Austin, Carl, Sandoval, Schwartz, Shep, Kyle, they skate through despite being part of the problem. It's gross. By the end, I think many viewers saw through this and recognized that Carl was just as responsible. I don't believe Lindsay got a bad edit. She did say those things, and it's fair to note she was also pushing Carl to step up financially when they earn income the same way. Additionally, oh my god, the episode after Carl proposed to Lindsay and Kyle broke the news. Danielle's reaction was absolutely insane. I can't believe no one called her out on it. I would have been like, what's wrong with you? It's shocking. Honestly, if I were Carl, I wouldn't have even told Danielle about the engagement plans. It's clear she's not happy for them, so why bother? She's not a true friend. As someone new to Summer House, my take on Danielle is that she's been in love with Carl and has always been jealous of his relationship with Lindsay. Even when they were just friends, Carl and Lindsay seemed closer than Carl, Lindsay, and Danielle. I think Danielle wanted to be Carl's main best friend and probably feared that if Carl and Lindsay started dating, Lindsay would be closer with the other girls, leaving Danielle on the outs. Remember when Lindsay told Danielle that Carl had expressed interest in her? Danielle was shocked and laughed it off, but then later she seemed to pursue Carl herself, like offering him a hand job to calm him down. It's bizarre. Danielle's actions consistently show she only cares about Carl. Shortly after Carl decided to date Lindsay, Danielle hooked up with him almost immediately after he broke things off with Lindsay on camera. Lindsay handled that news incredibly gracefully. Danielle never faced consequences for her erratic behavior because Lindsay was the target. Some might argue Danielle was right, but her behavior was unjustifiably horrific. Imagine if Lindsay had done half of what Danielle did to her. It would have been blown out of proportion. Lindsay even calmly explained her perspective to Danielle without getting defensive or drinking all season, yet Danielle made Lindsay's engagement about herself, talked poorly about Lindsay to the other girls, and let Paige blame Lindsay for something she didn't do. In fact, Danielle exhibited behavior that people often accuse Lindsay of: getting excessively drunk, making Lindsay's life about her emotions, spreading negativity about Lindsay, allowing others to blame Lindsay for her own actions, and not standing up for Lindsay when she was unfairly criticized. Danielle has been a bad friend, and her actions over multiple seasons speak for themselves. If you defend her behavior, not her feelings, it might reflect a bias against Lindsay rather than a fair assessment of Danielle's actions. Moreover, it's an intriguing question. Did Kyle call production? He must have been aware that tensions between Carl and Lindsay were escalating. Kyle has a reputation for orchestrating dramatic scenes. He seemed unusually composed during that scene, especially considering his usual outspokenness whether drunk or sober. It's curious that Carl filmed with Kyle first to set up the discussion with Lindsay. It seemed unnecessary and lacked entertainment value. Andy defended Carl directly about not calling production, but didn't delve deeper. Did anyone else call production? Andy mentioned that the cast doesn't decide what production films, yet we know Ariana had influence in a similar situation. Kyle understands how filming Tom and Ariana's breakup boosted VPR's viewership. Kyle and Amanda were protective of Carl and quick to blame Lindsay, perhaps wanting cameras as a witness. This would keep Carl's involvement clean without him needing to know. I'm not suggesting Kyle knew Carl would end things, but maybe he knew having cameras present would embolden Carl. If I could ask one question that the cast had to answer honestly this season, it would be about this. Regarding Ariana, she didn't call production in that way. Someone on the production team texted her, asking her and possibly Tom to do something, and she responded after learning about Tom's affair with Raquel. Interestingly, cast members who openly disagreed with Kyle and Amanda seemed to disappear from the show. Hannah, Workus, Stephen, Luke, Jules. The formula's major flaw seems to be the inability to openly critique Amanda. Ciara's comment about identity outside of Loverboy was one of the few instances. It's reminiscent of how criticism of Brittany was tiptoed around in VVR's last 2 seasons. On the other hand, Gabby truly stands out as the fashionista of the show. While she may not bring much else, her outfits are simply stunning. I always look forward to seeing what she wears because her choices are so well-crafted and creative. Paige, on the other hand, has more of a fast fashion vibe in comparison. She's trendy, even when the trend might not suit her perfectly. Given Gabby's extensive experience in the fashion industry over the last 10 years, her impeccable style makes perfect sense. I find Gabby a bit dull as Lindsay's sidekick, but I absolutely adore her fashion sense and how she styles herself. It would be great if the show gave Gabby more screen time so viewers could get to know her beyond being Lindsay's friend. Last season was heavily focused on Lindsay and Carl, as well as Amanda and Kyle, which didn't leave much room for her. I believe Gabby hasn't stood out, not because she's boring or lacks drama, but because her style and personality glimpses are refreshing. Gabby's knowledge of fashion and her ability to style herself to perfection contrast with Paige's approach of wearing trends without always enhancing or accessorizing them effectively. However, watching season 6 now, and Kyle mentioned briefly that the wedding cost $200,000, as someone who got engaged recently, that figure nearly made me choke. I'm trying to understand how it could cost that much, especially since they had the wedding in her parents' backyard. Could it be because they had to plan 3 weddings and canceled 2 due to COVID? Or did they have extravagant elements like Elton John performing or the Pope officiating? Note, I'm not even delving into the relationship drama here, just talking about the financial aspect. It's surprising that a backyard wedding could be more expensive than renting a venue. Weddings at home can indeed be very costly. If I recall correctly, the tent alone can be incredibly expensive, far exceeding the cost of renting a ballroom. Unlike a hotel, where everything is provided, at-home weddings require bringing in and paying for everything, right down to electricity and bathrooms for caterers. Additionally, I'm currently on season 6, and it's striking to me that Lindsay rarely takes responsibility for her actions. For instance, making out with Austin knowing Ciara had feelings for him was incredibly disrespectful, in my opinion. Regardless of Ciara and Austin's relationship status, Ciara tried to discuss it with Lindsay at the party, but Lindsay wouldn't even look at her. Then, a few days later, Lindsay suggests Ciara should have approached her about it, which baffles me. I enjoy the drama Lindsay brings to the show, but some of her behavior is really perplexing. She often acts entitled and seems to prioritize her desires above all else. Ultimately, the real issue lies with Austin. Nobody came out looking good during this situation. If I remember correctly from Winter House, it was acknowledged that Lindsay had feelings for Austin previously, and then Austin was openly flirting with Ciara. He was likely saying different things to Lindsay off-camera while leading Ciara on. While Lindsay and Austin were involved first, neither woman owed the other anything. The focus turned into Lindsay versus Ciara when it should have been Lindsay and Ciara against Austin. In my opinion, Ciara broke girl code first in Winter House, by not discussing her interest in Austin with Lindsay. She asked Austin instead, and of course, he wasn't going to discourage her because he wanted to pursue something with Ciara. He manipulated the situation. However, I wish Lindsay had taken the higher road and not engaged with Austin during the summer. Her ego might have been bruised from Winter House, even if she didn't show it, and she may have seen this as an opportunity for validation. It's frustrating, but ultimately, I blame Austin. He manipulated the situation and reveled in the attention from two beautiful women fighting over him. Ciara and Austin's relationship wasn't even casual or non-exclusive. That's too generous of an interpretation. Their fling lasted at best 10 days, and afterward, Austin wanted to remain single except for a few sad hookups Ciara initiated when he had no other options. The possibility of a Ciara or Austin relationship was already closed. Ciara chose to blame Lindsay instead of acknowledging that Austin simply wasn't interested. Lindsay clearly had feelings for Austin, and Ciara seemed indifferent to that fact. Lindsay was very intoxicated that night, and I doubt a conversation with Ciara would have been productive, especially on Ciara's birthday. Furthermore, Ciara failed to take accountability for assaulting Danielle, and instead made it about how she's better than that, which was disappointing. She also didn't take responsibility for labeling Lindsay a sexual predator. Moreover, do you think it's possible to return the show to its original intent? A bunch of friends who work hard during the week at real jobs and party on the weekends, being messy, but still having an energy that shows they actually like, somewhat, each other in real life. That's what made the first 2 seasons, as messy as they were, special in my opinion. It was before influencer culture took over, before everyone became cautious about social media backlash. Back when they didn't have huge incomes from the show or brand deals, so they actually had to work during the week, making it interesting to watch them let loose on weekends. The show has lost sight of that, not really to anyone's fault, but with everyone trying to self-produce and the influence of social media, it's just not as fun as it used to be. But considering today's culture around social media and influencers, is it even feasible to recreate that vibe? Even if they brought in an entirely new cast, which I agree with, they likely end up ditching their real jobs and falling into the same patterns, losing the genuine coworker energy that the current cast embodies. So perhaps it's impossible to replicate the original essence of the show at this point. I believe that era is gone and won't return, but it's not just a summer house problem. Reality TV as a whole has evolved. Nowadays, anyone who goes on a show is often seeking the influencer lifestyle, so they're not fully themselves if there's mess that could damage their brand. I've been rewatching Jersey Shore because I miss the chaos of that era on TV. This issue isn't unique to Summer House. My theory is that by the 3rd season of any reality show, the cast becomes hyper-aware of their public image. They might try to change their behavior or stick to what garners attention, like Jax from Vanderpump Rules. It takes a unique personality to consistently deliver entertaining television with the same storyline. That's why shows like Below Deck never lack drama. The cast isn't guaranteed to return, so they're often eager to make an impression, avoiding the jadedness that can set in with multiple seasons of experience. Perhaps it would be interesting to take a similar approach with Summer House, throwing a bunch of semi-friends into the house for the summer weekends. They could have figures like Lindsay and Kyle as the house mom and dad, providing continuity similar to the captains on the boats in Below Deck. This approach could inject a fresh dynamic while nodding to the show's roots, but it's clear that reality TV has changed, and recapturing the original magic might be a challenge in today's landscape. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates. Your opinions matter, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.